Oh, we got a good show on tap for you guys tonight on this special Thursday edition of Carving Up Live. Going to start with my beloved Golden State Warriors, who pulled one out of the fire last night to keep their season alive, if but for a game. Steph Curry was amazing. Draymond Green shut down Kawhi Leonard. Going to discuss that. Speaking of the Clippers, a disastrous, and I mean disastrous, 7-year run with Kawhi. Discuss that on Carving Up the Context. Get to LaMelo Ball and his up and down roller coaster performance that leads to a game winner against the Heat. Discuss that. Also get to, thank God, Luka, Doncic, Cade, Cunningham all are going to be eligible for All-NBA awards. The 65-game requirement. They created some exceptions for those guys. They need to get rid of the rule entirely. Also get to my top 10 players in the NBA going into the playoffs and my NBA first-round playoff predictions. All of that on a loaded edition of Carving Up Live. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube. We're also on Facebook, we're on Twitch, we're on X, we are on Instagram. I'm Bryson Carver, as always. We are doing something kind of different. I think we've done it before with the show, which is basically merge the Wednesday show and the Friday show in together to a Thursday show, in which we got a ton of NBA to get into. You heard the rundown right there. But I must say, just right off the top before I get into the Warriors, I mean, y'all know I'm wearing the t-shirt. You see the hat right here. I'm a diehard Warriors fan. Even got Iggy's book. Shout out to Andre Iguodala. Diehard Warriors fan. I got to say, I'm very embarrassed of myself. I'm very embarrassed because just on Monday, 3 days ago, I said this: let the season from hell come to an end. Give me the Clippers. I think the Clippers are knocking out my Warriors. Wednesday night, 117 to 110. But season from hell, the Warriors are done. They're done. I'm not going to come up here and lie to you and say, yeah, I think the Warriors are better than the Clippers. Can they win a game? Sure. If you got DeAnthony Melton said it today, you got Steph Curry, you always got a chance. Okay, to be fair, I was right on that last point. But yeah, I wrote the Warriors off for dead. And you know what the Golden State Warriors said?
Not so fast, my friends.
They shocked me and they shocked a lot of people. So let's get right into it off the bat. But first, I did not think, honestly, that after the Jimmy Butler ACL tear back in January, matter of fact, let's back up just a little bit. Because as many viewers and listeners of the show remember, back in October, I said, you know what? I'm going out on a limb. If this team's healthy, they're winning the championship. By the way, Warriors players were saying the same thing. Before you crush me, the freaking players thought the same thing. Steve Kerr is the ultimate realist, was like, yeah, I think we're good enough to do it. Jimmy Butler blows his ACL. A week later, Steph suffers from runner's knee, misses 2 months. The season goes to hell, as I've said a million times over the last few months. I did not think, I think Warriors fans are with me on this. None of a Dub Nation thought we'd have a moment of joy the rest of the season. And last night, Clippers get out off the bat. It's what was it, 12-2, 14-2? It's like, oh gosh, here we go again. This is like the Kings playing game a couple of years ago where they just get, the Warriors get blown out of the building. Warriors had never won at the new Intuit Dome arena in Inglewood, California. They haven't beaten the Clippers in a road game in 4.5 years. True story. And it's like, okay, now they're down at 13 in the fourth quarter. Steph's not healthy. Kristaps Porzingis is doing his thing, and Guy Santos and Pods, and it's one of them seasons where it's just not to be meant to be. And Steph Curry said, the hell it isn't. Steph Curry against the Los Angeles Clippers on a knee that was not 100%. This is what he did. 35 points, 4 assists, 12 of 23 from the field, 7 of 12 from three-point range, 4 of 5 from the free throw line. Of course, he had the go-ahead three-point shot, which in typical Steph fashion, he didn't even watch it go in. He was falling into the first row, asking the fans, hey, did it go in? Of course, actually, rhetorically, he knew it went in. And Steph in the second half was pure magic. Show what he did in the second half. 27 on 12 of 14 shooting. 5 for 7 from three-point range. Of course, he had the go-ahead three-point shot, and he led, as I mentioned earlier, a 13-point fourth-quarter comeback. And I think when we think about Steph Curry, we understand he's 38 years of age. We get that. The overwhelming majority of the accomplishments of his career have been accomplished. He's broken the three-point record. He's won 4 championships. Listen, I will never rule out Steph winning a 5th, not this year, but in the future. He's got the MVPs, all of it. But I think, and you will see this reflected in my top 10 players in the NBA about 45 minutes from now. I think we did this with LeBron for a bit up until like a couple of years ago. We've kind of done it to a lesser degree with Kevin Durant, where it's like when guys get to a certain age, 35, 36, we're like, oh yeah, they're still good. Like we're not just going to write them off as a role player, but they can't be They can't be like Apex Prime, Steph, LeBron, Kevin Durant. You have Clippers, and this is how it goes for Steph all season long and throughout his career, throughout his prime, really. Grabbing him, running it, basically a marathon, trying to chase him down. 38 years old, and he's more athletic and more in better condition than 25-year-olds out there. He's out here dancing off the dribble. He's catching off screens. He had a couple of threes that were waved off because of some bogus illegal screen calls on Draymond Green. Regardless, Steph did his thing last night. And Steph, I don't know if this is good or bad, but in the play-in, he's gotten used to it, and he's been quite awesome in it. He averages 34, 4, and 3, 48% from the field, 50% from three-point range, 94% from the free throw line in the 5 playing games of his career. So if that's any indication, Golden State should be in good shape tomorrow night against Phoenix. Spoiler alert, I think the Warriors will win that game, albeit close. But I think we are, with all the unbelievable superstars that are 31-ish or below. I think Jokic is 31. You got Jokic, SGA, Wemby. Giannis is still, when he's healthy, a great player. And Luka and Edwards and Cade and we just kind of, I guess in the back of our brains, it's, well, history shows us when you're 38, you can be good, but you're not going to be top 10 player in the league. You're not going to be the guy that resembles 2-time MVP Steph. And Steph Curry says, who made those rules up? And why do I have to adhere to them? And so you saw, got off to a rough start, was not shooting the basketball effectively. And what I respect so much, and we'll get to the Steve Kerr bite in just a second, what I respect so freaking much about this group, because I've said it over and over, even in this segment, this has been the season from hell. The Warriors got Jimmy Butler last year, were the 3rd hottest team in basketball behind the Cavs and the Thunder, beat the 2-seed Rockets in 7 games, were on their way to blowing out the Timberwolves. Steph Curry hurts his hamstring, and that's it. That's your season. You bring back the group from last year, add a couple of vets like Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton. You're like, hey, maybe we can. You get hot in January, and Jimmy Butler blows his ACL, and a week later, Steph Curry suffers a knee injury that keeps him out 2 months. And so, rationally, I guess the way we as fans think, well, sit Steph. Don't risk re-aggravating the knee. Draymond's out there playing meaningless basketball. Let's just tank for a high pick and see what the heck happens. And because they have the character and the heart and the drive of champions, of 4-time champions, Steph, Kerr, Draymond. By the way, other champions that didn't win with the Warriors, Al Horford, who was 4 for 4 from 3 in the 4th quarter, hit some massive shots. Kristaps Porzingis, who was unbelievable on both ends of the floor last night, put back dunks, threes, blocking shots, the whole bit. But Steve Kerr talked about this, and if you go back, I discussed this. I said, hey, if Steph's healthy, if he gives the Warriors a shot to get in the playoffs, at the very least, it gives the young guys an opportunity to get real-life playoff minutes going into next season. This is what Steve Kerr said about the great Steph Curry.
This is why Steph came back. So everybody out there who thought Steph should have taken the rest of the year off, this is what he does. This is who he is. If he can compete, he's going to compete. And it was just incredible to watch.
And that's what separates all the greats in any line of business. Sports, politics, entertainment, no matter what industry you're talking about, is the men and women who just love the craft, who just loved, in the case of Steph Curry, just love to play basketball, love to play the game. You see, again, this is encouraged, talked about this in the past, that, and I think even, God rest his soul, the late great Kobe Bryant used to talk about this with Steph, where, with Kobe and with Jordan, it's like they'd snarl at you and they death stare you. And Steph will hit, go behind the back, hit a 3-point shot over you, and he'll just smile on the other way back, or he'll just be kind of stone-faced. And then you'll see late in the game, you'll see the emotion, you'll see the pounding the chest, and let's go. And you'll occasionally, you didn't see it last night because it wasn't applicable, but the night and all of it. And so much of it last night, you saw the joy from Steph, Draymond, Kerr, because those are the 3 remaining, guys from the duration of this dynasty, is that not only could this be the last moment with those 3, because we don't know what Draymond's future is in Golden State. Heck, we don't even know what Kerr's future is in Golden State. My guess is he's back for next year and then he retires. Steph's a Warrior for life, it feels like. But not only could that be their last moment, but I think there was kind of an acknowledgement like, yeah, this season's been awful, and we're going to make the absolute most of what we possibly can make out of it. That's what we're going to do. And by the way, that now transitions me to the second catalyst in that win yesterday. Draymond Green. And before I talk about Draymond Green, I don't know more than Steph Curry knows about Draymond Green. Let's hear what Steph had to say about his 14-year teammate.
He's special. He's a Hall of Famer. Just a defensive savant when it comes to being in the right place at the right time, fully committing to what the job is. It's not a fun job. It's, like you're saying, offensively, you have your freedom. You can do whatever you want, make or miss shots, whatever. Defensively, you're at the mercy of somebody like a Kawhi Leonard who is going to make you work all night. And I think Draymond, he feeds off of those battles, those matchups, and gets him going. And it's our job to have his back. But the way he played tonight, and just the level of impact he had was incredible. I'm falling short on the words to describe it. It was unbelievable.
I have said, and I'll be honest, I've at points this year, particularly early in the season, been kind of hard on Draymond in the sense that early this year he was kind of turnover prone, just didn't seem to be the same guy, which again, he's in year 14. Most guys, Steph's in year 17. Most guys don't age like that. Like that's just not how it works. But let me preface what I'm about to say by saying this, because I feel like I always have to do this, and I feel like it's fair for me to have to do this. I have absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, but love, admiration, and respect for the future Hall of Famer and one of the 5 greatest players in team history, Klay Thompson. Love that man. Game 6 Klay forever. But it's why I've argued for years. Everybody knows Steph's the most important part of the dynasty. That goes without saying. It's why I've argued for years, as much as I love Klay, Draymond's the second leading catalyst for this dynasty. Not even Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was only there for half the championships. I love Iguodala, and then you go down the list. Klay's great. Draymond anchors arguably the most important in the floor in key spots, defense, and we'll get to his defense last night. We will get to his defense. And offensively, you even saw in the game the go-ahead shot Steph hits, where Steph, and Draymond mentioned this in the postgame, Steph kind of gives him like a hand signal, and it's like, okay, we know what we're doing. Draymond sets a screen, Steph behind the back to Dre, gives it back to Steph, hits the shot. But what I didn't know, and I'll be honest, watch the game, I'm like, I thought Draymond's great, obviously, we'll get into it. But I thought he wasn't being the emotional catalyst for the Warriors that he's been, and that's been part of his value. I thought by Draymond standards, like, he looked hyped, he looked excited, but I was like, he doesn't seem to have like that same emotional juice that we're used to seeing from Draymond Green. Well, today on NBA, on ESPN, Shams Charania told us why. Take a listen.
Vintage Draymond Green.
Right.
This was a defensive masterclass. But to me, what was even more impressive was team sources told me Draymond Green was sick. He was throwing up, puking all over the place in pregame. Sideline, in the back area by the locker room.
And despite that, this is what he did. Put Kawhi Leonard, who might be first-team All-NBA, although likely not so with the Cade Cunningham news today, put him in a torture chamber. Kawhi, when guarded by Draymond Green, 6 points, shot 3 for 11 for the field, had not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 turnovers in the game, and he had 2 points in the fourth quarter. Those 2 points, by the way, came on a garbage time dunk with like 20 seconds left. The game was over. Draymond Green, year 14, and again, respect to Kawhi Leonard and his prime defensively. Not as much respect, I'll be honest, to Rudy Gobert. The fact that this man, who is indisputably the greatest defender of his generation, has 1 DPOY is a crime. It's a basketball crime. I've also said it's a crime that Anthony Davis has none and that Rudy Gobert is 4. That's NBA media values defensive rating a little too much for my liking. Regardless, what that man did last night, taking Kawhi Leonard one-on-one, and again, just giving him nothing but it gave him no airspace, was on him all night, playing him physically. You could tell Kawhi's not somebody who shows his emotions much, but you could tell it was kind of bothering Kawhi. He kind of slumped his head like, oh my God, like this guy's just all over me tonight. And so I've always said about Draymond, not only I've always said he's the second most important member to the Warriors dynasty, I've also said, and I'll be just 100% honest about this, I think the barometer on how much a person knows about basketball, you can measure that by asking them, what's your opinion on Draymond Green? How important is Draymond Green? Now, they may not have him as high as I do or some Warriors fans do, but if you get, oh my gosh, backpack shot, triple single, he's not that good. He's been carried by Steph and Clay. Okay, well, that's code for you don't know basketball. You just don't know basketball. Never forget that it was the suspension of Draymond Green that flipped the 2016 finals upside down. Are we just going to forget that? Are we just going to forget the fact that when Draymond Green was out for most of the second half of 2022, comes back, Warriors get hot defensively, win the championship? We're just going to forget that? We're just going to forget that in the 4 title seasons in Golden State, they've been a top 10 defensive team. Love Steph. It ain't because of him. Clay was a great defender, not for the last championship. Draymond was the anchor for that. Draymond has been the emotional catalyst that every dynasty needs. Most dynasties have in the NBA. Bulls had Rodman, right? We've seen this in modern NBA history. The enforcers, the guys who push other guys in practice, sometimes past their limits. We've seen that with Draymond, famously, thanks to TMZ. But there's no one you'd rather have on your team in the biggest spots than number 23 in Golden State. Just absolute incredible performance by Draymond Green. So to anybody, and I do mean anybody, who's out here talking junk about this man, I got one thing to say to you.
Shut up!
Shut up! All right? Draymond Green and his performance against Kawhi Leonard last night.
But even aside from that, I savor the moments of being able to play with great players. It's an honor to play against a great, all-time great like Kawhi Leonard, And as a competitor, you just want to do your best. Not every day do I get to go home and say, I played Kawhi Leonard tonight. Like, he's a special player, and he's a worker, and I got the utmost respect for Kawhi Leonard, So as much as it is about our organization and, taking advantage of these moments, and appreciating the moment, I appreciate playing against the all-time greats, and Kawhi Leonard is one of the greatest our league has seen.
I'm telling you, that is, as somebody who's watched Draymond Green for virtually his entire career as a Warriors fan, that's one of the best defensive performances of his career. And he's had some great ones, to say the very least. That's one of the best. I mean, this man, again, when you add the context of, this guy was vomiting before the game. This guy was literally sick. That's why, like, whenever he got big steals of Kevin Harlan, Draymond Green stole the ball. You usually expect him pump his fist, yell. It's like he was hyped, but you didn't see, like, Draymond hyped. It's because he was sick. He didn't feel good. Just a gutty performance. It shows why the Golden State Warriors are 4-time champions. Even in a season that has been marred by injuries, been marred by guys not being available. You had a midseason trade with Kuminga for Kristaps Porzingis, who, again, himself was great last night. Al Horford hitting big shots. He's dealt with injuries. But the core three, Steph, Draymond, Kerr. I just again, as a guy that's basically grown up watching this team and not knowing, again, I don't know what Draymond's future in Golden State looks like, and Kerr's is a little less uncertain, but his contract expires this year. My guess is he coaches next year and then retires. We'll see. But to know, these guys know. These guys have been on championship teams. They know what a championship team looks like, and this ain't it. This team is not. This team, I think, is going to beat Phoenix on Friday and then lose to Oklahoma City. But they are not good enough to beat the Thunder, straight up. And they still said, we don't care. We're going to absolutely empty the tank, give everything we got, and beat this Clippers team. Nothing but respect for Golden State. And as a cherry on top, then we'll move to the Clippers. As a cherry on top, and I've lamented the Chase Center for being not even a fraction of the home court advantage Oracle Arena was. At the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California, this is what the fans were chanting. Beautiful. I've missed that. For those that maybe didn't catch it, that's the famous Warriors chant that was just a stapled Oracle Arena. It felt like, I'm telling you, it felt like it was 2015 again. It felt like it was Steph's jacking threes and Clay's doing his thing and Draymond's blocking 3-4 shots a game and getting a couple steals and throwing lobs to Iguodala. Oh my gosh, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful night. So it felt like 2015 again. Clippers are coming up small and Steph's hitting big shots. Draymond. It was a beautiful night. Whether the season will end tomorrow night, we'll see. I hope not. I'd like to see this Warriors team in the playoffs. Again, as DeAnthony Melton said, as I Quoted him on Monday's show. If you got Steph Curry, you always got a puncher's chance, right? Let's move to the Clippers. And again, this is a segment we do each and every Wednesday on the show, but given the fact that we're merging Wednesdays and Fridays show together, might as well do it today. So it's called Carving Out the Context. We basically look at a story or look at a topic, primarily in the world of sports, although we have ventured outside of it from time to time, and try and look a little bit deeper than what is being discussed in terms of surface value. And today we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Clippers. So, as the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, primetime Deion Sanders says, "Give me my theme music." On this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Clippers, who, again, as I am ashamed to admit, as I did at the start of the show, I did pick the Clippers to win this game. I feel bad about it. I've just been so down in the dumps about this Warriors season. I just want it to be over. And then Steph and Draymond and Kerr said, no, we're going to give you at least one more moment of joy. And I appreciate those three and everyone else on the team for doing that. But for the Clippers, so there's a lot of uncertainty with the squad. Obviously, Kawhi, and I even discussed this on Monday's show, he's going to be All-NBA, probably second-team All-NBA, especially now with the Cade Cunningham news. I think that's fair. The Clippers with a 9 seed. Kawhi was great, but not so great on a 9 seed that you have to put him on first team. So he'll be second team All-NBA, which he deserves. He was great this year. He was healthy. He was available. And the Clippers still won 42 games and were the 9 seed. By the way, this didn't get a lot of play, but Friday night, I was watching this game because I was like, I don't know who the Warriors are going to play in their first playing game. They played the Portland Trailblazers on Friday, and had they won that game, they basically would have locked up the 8 seed. For the first playing game. So if they beat Phoenix, they're in, as opposed to having to win 2 straight. Well, they lost that game to Portland. And so you have that component onto it. So what's happened with this Clippers season? What's happened with this Kawhi Leonard era? Because my guess is it's probably over. Because of the investigation going on with the Clippers and some of the shady salary cap business that they've been allegedly involving themselves in. The fact that Kawhi Leonard is going into the final year of his deal, probably going to ask for an extension. Doubt the Clippers give it to him, because why would they? He's not accomplished even a fraction of what they thought he would for him. Let's look at Kawhi Leonard and his tenure, if we have this, with the Los Angeles Clippers. Matter of fact, before we do that, if you go back to 2019, Kawhi was the big fish in the free agent market 2019. I remember distinctly, like, everybody was waiting to sign, or all these teams were waiting to sign some, good role players, good pieces based on Kawhi's decision. And it drags out, takes kind of a long time. And we're like, is he going to stay in Toronto? Is he going to go to the Lakers, team up with LeBron and AD? Is he going to go to the Clippers? Feels like he's been linked to the Clippers, but he may not go to the Clippers. And it turns out he says, yeah, I'll go to the Clippers, but under one condition. You make a trade for Paul George or I'm not coming. And that was the beginning. I don't want to say the beginning of the end, because it's the Clippers. It's not like this is a respected NBA franchise. But that was the beginning of the end. It was dead on arrival for this team to do anything special in the postseason. The trade that killed the Clippers. And by the way, wrecked the Clippers. And by the way, maybe began a dynasty in Oklahoma City. Famously in that trade, the Clippers got Paul George. The Thunder got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's back to be the back-to-back MVP. Danilo Gallinari, Trey Mann, Jalen Williams, second best player on the Thunder. Cason Wallace, three-point shooter, for this Oklahoma City team. Nikola Topic, again, he's dealt with some health issues, wishing nothing but the best to him. We'll see what happens with him. And by the way, they've got a lottery pick this draft from the Clippers and 2 pick swaps. And there's a possibility if the Warriors beat Phoenix on Friday, that pick has a chance to be even higher. Like the Thunder might have a top 10 pick in the draft because of the trade that they made with the Los Angeles Clippers. A trade that Kawhi Leonard mandated they make. Otherwise, he would not sign with them. Well, since they made that trade, let's see what Kawhi Leonard's done with the Clippers. Nothing. Famously, 2020, they're in the bubble. They're the favorites to win the championship. They're up 15 points in each and every one of games 5, 6, and 7 against the Nuggets. They blew a 3-1 lead. In 2021, Kawhi was great. Got hurt in the second round against the 1-seed Jazz. Team won without him. Made the Western Conference Finals. Because of that injury, because of the ACL, he's out for the remainder, or out for all of 2021-22. The next year, he plays 2 playoff games and the Clippers get gentlemen swept by the Suns. The next year, He again plays 2 playoff games, and the Clippers get bounced by Dallas in round 1. Last year, healthy all the way through, bounced in round 1. This year, healthy all season long, bounce in the 9-10 play-in game. That's the reality. And let's not, and listen, Twitter can be a toxic place, and I don't need to be the first to tell you that. However, if there's one thing Twitter has always been good at throughout its history, at least as long as I've been on the app, it is a good app to pull receipts. Yeah, you've seen freezing cold takes and all these accounts. They will pull audio, bad tweets, if something ages really, really badly, or even really well, depending on the situation. But Twitter's a negative place. They pull out the bad stuff. And when you go back, and I will be first to confess this, very first episode of Carving Up Live, the first take I ever gave, aged like fine wine. I said, Dak Prescott is so much better than Carson Wentz, and anyone thinks otherwise is an idiot. That's basically what I said. Aged well, right? The last take of that show, it didn't age great. I said the Clippers would win the 2020 championship. They blew a 3-1 lead in the second round. Not great. From that point on, I was out on the Clippers. But you had folks saying, Kawhi's about to take over the league. Like, Kawhi is absolutely the best player in the league. He's better than Steph, Kevin Durant, LeBron James. He's the best player, defending finals MVP with the Raptors. He's going to lead this woebegone franchise, the Clippers, to a championship, maybe multiple, another finals MVP or 2. Like, this team is going to be the team of the next half decade. They make one conference finals. By the way, they did it with Kawhi hurt. And when you look, and we heard Draymond saying that Kawhi is an all-time great. No question. Kawhi is a first-ballot Hall of Famer, 2-time champion, 2-time finals MVP. Kawhi's resume is what it is. He's an all-time great player. Top 50 easily. But in his Clippers tenure, I went back and looked, and we're just going to do like notable, not every player that's been in the conference finals in Kawhi's Clippers tenure, but every star to superstar player that has been to the conference finals in the Kawhi Leonard Clippers era. There you go. It's a lot. It's basically everybody. Tatum Brown, been there 4 times. Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, been to the conference finals 3 times. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Jokic, Jamal Murray, Luka Doncic, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam have all been to the conference finals twice during Kawhi's Clippers tenure. The remainder, Trae Young went to a conference finals. Paul George led Kawhi's team to the conference finals. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, Giannis, Steph, Draymond, Kyrie, Shea, Jalen Williams. All of those guys have been to at least one conference finals during the Kawhi Leonard Clippers tenure. This man was getting Michael Jordan comparisons. And listen, you watch the game. He's not as close to Jordan stylistically as like Kobe was. But, okay, line drive shots. Kawhi has freakishly large hands. So did Jordan. Great defensive players in their prime. I think Kawhi's a little bit stronger than Jordan. Jordan was a better athlete than Kawhi. Like, there are some things you can see, like, okay, I kind of see the comparisons a little bit. But the New Balance commercials, the king of LA, he's gonna take over the city of LA. It's not gonna be a Lakers town anymore. It's gonna be Clippers town. And now look where you're at. Can we show that trade just one more time? This is the trade they made that Kawhi would not have joined the Clippers if they did not make this trade right here. The Thunder might have built a dynasty off this trade. The Clippers have made one conference finals. And by the way, Paul George is obviously not there anymore. He's with the Sixers now. And so when you consider the fact, it's Pablo Torre has done unbelievable journalism on this subject, is look at the fact that, okay, yeah, that they could be, if what's alleged in terms of their management of the salary cap is true, they could be in some really big trouble. And the fact Kawhi is going to the final year of his contract. What's he, 34 years old? He just finished year 15 in the NBA. He's not getting younger. I mean, the fact that he stayed this healthy all season long was kind of a pleasant shock. Like, hey, Kawhi's healthy. And it got the Clippers nothing. Got him absolutely nothing. Wasn't available when he was younger, when the team was better. Now the team's worse because of some of the trades they made. They moved on from Paul George, from Zubats, from all these guys. Now Kawhi's healthy, and you're in the 9-10 playoff game blowing a 13-point fourth quarter lead at home. There's no other way to say this other than his tenure with Los Angeles has been an abject disaster. Go back and look at what the expectations were. It was supposed to be Lakers, Clippers, these squads are going to be battling it out for in the Western Conference Finals for the next 3 to 5 years. Lakers after 2020, didn't reach those heights, but they got a championship in 2020. Clippers blew a 3-1 lead. We could have gotten a Lakers-Clippers conference finals. And the problem is the Clippers blew a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. Got Doc Rivers fired, which, by the way, smart move. Ty Lue's a much better coach, but that's what happened. And Kawhi had a lot to do with that. And so I guess the question is now, who's going to take on Kawhi long-term? If there even is a long-term, because we don't know how much longer he's going to play. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. People suggested Golden State. I don't really want to have to extend Kawhi Leonard, especially when Jimmy Butler's getting paid a lot. Steph Curry's getting paid a lot. If you ask me to choose between Draymond and Kawhi, Kawhi's a better player. Draymond's more valuable. Could he go to the Heat? Maybe. Heat are in desperate need of a superstar. Kawhi is still that. He's going to be second-team All-NBA. He's a superstar. But he's never been a guy you can build around on a champion. Never. Just because he's been a Finals MVP twice, those were Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, and Pop Spurs. Everybody knows that. Kawhi was a great ascending young player and played really well in those 2014 Finals, but that was Tim Duncan's team. Everybody knew it. And with that 2019 Raptors team, he was indisputably the best player and was great all postseason long. He wasn't the leader of that team. Kyle Lowry was. Look at, when they show like the huddles in the tunnel before they take the court for pregame warmups, who's out here rallying the troops? Kyle Lowry. I feel like Fred VanVleet was more of a leader on that team, a young Fred VanVleet, than Kawhi Leonard. And it doesn't take away from his greatness. It doesn't take away from the fact that he's a shoo-in to be a Hall of Famer, especially NBA lets everybody in nowadays. So Kawhi is obviously going to get in, and he should, by the way. His accomplishments are what they are. He's an all-time great. But he's never been the centerpiece of a team that can have sustained success. He never has been that guy. If we're keeping it real, his best chance to have that was in Toronto, and he left. Forced the Clippers to make a trade they obviously shouldn't have made. It built a potential dynasty in Oklahoma City and has the Clippers in ruins. But again, poorly run franchises tend to dig themselves these holes. And now the Clippers are in NBA purgatory. They don't have their own picks. Kawhi's going to be gone. They might be in trouble with the league. It's a disaster. They went for it with a guy who you shouldn't go all in for unless you have set leadership on that team. So in this week's edition of Carving Out the Context, it is objectively true that the Kawhi Leonard tenure in Los Angeles was a disaster. And I say was because I think it's over. I think he's going to be on a different team next year. If I had to guess, probably Miami. I'm trying to think of other teams that might go after Kawhi. Like, I feel like the market's going to be kind of limited because you're going to have to give him an extension. And that would be bad business. It just would. His availability is always going to be a question. So that's where I'm at on the Los Angeles Clippers and Kawhi Leonard. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, good news in the NBA today that just came down. Cade Cunningham, Luka Doncic, both. I thought Luka would be. I did not think Cade would be. Good news. Both will be eligible for All-NBA and postseason awards, MVP voting, all of it. Get to that. I do this every year. My top 10 players in the NBA going into the playoffs. We do this before and after the playoffs because the list inevitably will look different. My top 10 players in the NBA going into the playoffs. Get to that. And at the end of the show, first round predictions for the NBA playoffs. Get to that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. I appreciate everybody for stopping by on a special Thursday show. Again, we're merging Wednesdays and Friday shows together. The only thing that is usually on Wednesday show or has been for the last month or so that won't be is mock draft. So do a new mock draft each and every Wednesday. We're going to be doing the final mock draft 5.0 next Wednesday, day before the draft. I'm super excited about it. It's the last one. It's the one that I want to be judged on how accurate did I get. Last year's mock draft was kind of rough. I'll be honest. This is my first year fully committing to doing a full draft process long mock draft. So hopefully this year, goes a little bit better for me in that department. So stay tuned for that. But before we get to our next segment, Cade Cunningham, Luka Doncic, check out our Carving Up merchandise. Scan the QR code on the top left corner of your screen. It'll take you to the website. We got hats. We got t-shirts. The weather here in Tennessee is absolutely beautiful. Lot of pollen. It's bothering my allergies. I'm very sensitive to that stuff. But listen, it's spring weather's here. It's sunny. There's a nice breeze. Like summer is like getting closer and closer. We're going to the NBA playoffs, so it's kind of the sign of those things to come in terms of Mother Nature. But check out our spring wear on the website for our Carving Up merch. You can also check out the same exact products for All Even Podcast with Barry Grant Jr., the Metropolitan Report with Alfred Parsar Jr., the Cowboys Cam Fan, Mike and Josh. We got some great shows on the Grid Network. Check all of them out. Check out their merch on the website. If you want just Grid Network merch as well, you can find that as well on the website to check out our merch. We'd greatly, greatly appreciate it. Let's move to Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham. So the news came out today from the NBA. Shams Charania reported it, that they will lift, if I can pull up Sean's tweet here, that they will lift they've ruled in favor. I'm reading Shams' tweet exactly. They are ruling in favor of Lakers Luka Doncic and Pistons Cade Cunningham on their extraordinary circumstances challenge for the 65-game award rule, making both eligible for all 2025-26 season honors, such as MVP and all NBA teams, sources tell ESPN. And he goes on to say that for Luka, he missed 2 games to attend the birth of his child. Totally understandable, of course. And Cade Cunningham, their thing was, he was 1 game short. Luka was 1 game short, by the way, as well, to meeting the 65-game requirement. Cade Cunningham, he was 1 game short. You know why? Because he suffered a collapsed lung. Like I think we'll give Cade a pass on that one. He's 1 game short. He led the Pistons to the freaking 1 seed and 60 wins. I think we'll give him a pass on that for a freak injury. And so, first of all, I'm very happy at this news. I'm very happy at the NBA's ruling. Like, you cannot. To me, what's great about the All-NBA teams each and every year, I think way more so than the All-Star teams, is that they kind of, particularly the first and the second teams, they kind of tell the story of the NBA regular season. Like, these were the 10 best players in basketball. Like, a few years ago, the NBA changed it to where they don't have to be, because the league has gotten more and more positionless. Like, there's more jack of all trades. I mean, Nikola Jokic can be a point center. He can bring the ball up the floor and initiate the offense. Is that now he doesn't have to be point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. It doesn't have to be that in terms of how they slot guys in the All-NBA positions. It's just who are the best 5 players on each team. And you cannot tell the story of the regular season in 2025-26 without Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham. Luka literally led the league in scoring, had one of the greatest scoring stretches we've seen in the last quarter century in the NBA this past March with the Lakers. And Cade Cunningham, listen, we thought the Pistons would take a step up from last season when they shocked us by being the 6th seed. We didn't think they'd be the 1 seed and win 60 games. Cade Cunningham led that. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Osora Thompson, those guys. Cade Cunningham was the main catalyst to get them to that spot. And so the idea that you can't tell the story of the league, you can tell the story of the league without those guys is insanity. And so I'm glad the NBA ruled in their favor. And they also ruled against Anthony Edwards because he played, I think, 61 games. They ruled against his extraordinary circumstances challenge. I don't really know what the extraordinary circumstances would be for Ant other than I was hurt. With that being said, yeah, Ant was one of the 10 best players in the league, and that's not. He averaged 28 a game. The Timberwolves made the playoffs again. They made back-to-back conference finals. Ant was one of the 10 best players in the league in 2025-26. And this ruling, I discussed this when I made my All-NBA teams and did if I had an MVP vote and, if I filled out a ballot, I had Luka on it because I assumed the NBA is going to rule in his favor. Because again, he missed 2 games because of the birth of a child. I think they should give him the, benefit of the doubt there. I didn't think they'd rule in favor of Cade, I'll be honest. I'm thrilled that they did. I did not think they would. So with that all being said, this offseason, I'm not saying there shouldn't be any requirement to be on the All-NBA teams. I think it should be something like 62-game limit. You have to meet that to be, at least that, to be first-team All-NBA. 60 second-team All-NBA, and then like 55 third-team All-NBA. Like if you played 54 less games, it's like, gosh, you missed a big chunk of the season. Like you missed what, a third of the season. Like that's a lot of time missed for me to put you on the All-NBA team. If you play 60 games, guys, like if you were one of the 10 best players, you're one of the 10 best players. If your team had a successful season, you had a lot to do with that. You should be recognized for it. Because the big thing too is, and I've discussed this affects guys' future contracts. Like this affects what Luka Doncic can make in a future extension. Cade Cunningham, same thing. So they should be rewarded for their play this year, for their value to their teams, for the fact that the Lakers, prior to the injuries, were playing really good basketball, even if I do think they were pretenders. And the Pistons, I don't buy them that much either to go on a deep playoff run, but Cade Cunningham got them to 60 wins. Like that's got to count for something. And has been the franchise player for the last 5 years. So I'm glad the NBA ruled in their favor. Get rid of the 65-game requirement. It's dumb. I've said on the show many, many times, and there are smarter people in the NBA than me. There are numerous ways that you can combat tanking, load management, injuries. I've said, hey, start with shortening the season to 72 games. Part of that would be A, it's less mileage in the bodies, and B, coaches lament this all the time in the league. We don't have any time to practice. It's why I've talked about this on the show for years. It's why, why do you think arguably the 5 best players in the league are all international? Because internationally, their practice habits and their development is like 50,000 times better than we had in the United States. In the United States, it's just play a million games, AAU, all of it. There's development. There's practice. I know this makes people in my generation roll their eyes, the F word, fundamentals, but it matters. It's why guys who aren't as, guys who aren't freak athletes like Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, are 2 of the 4 or 5 best players in the league. You'll see where I have them ranked on my top 10 list in about 10 minutes or so. And so I just, or not 10 minutes, but probably about 5 minutes. I just think it's a broken practice, and there are a number of ways we can combat injuries, low management, tanking, none of which are, hey, you have to play 65 games, otherwise you ain't getting jack squat, which can affect future contracts. Frankly, forget money. It affects legacies. Not that missing one All-NBA is like the end-all be. I mean, Steph Curry, I think, I could be wrong on this, like 5 first-team All-NBA selections, which for Steph feels kind of small. Luka's got more than him. But when you do go throughout NBA history, and one of the things you look at is how many times was this guy All-NBA? Like LeBron had X amount first-team All-NBA selections. So did Kareem. So did Jordan. Like, you look at those things. And a world where, Luka doesn't get to be recognized, even though he was indisputably one of the 5 best players in the league this season. And Cade Cunningham, arguably the same thing, and the Pistons won 60 games, and he won't have anything to show for it. Like that just feels wrong. That feels like you're not being recognized for the work that you put in, for the contributions that you made, not only individually, but to winning. That doesn't feel like what pro sports should be, what any sport should be, any competitive field should be. So I'm glad the NBA ruled in favor of Luka. I figured they'd rule in favor of Luka. I wasn't so sure about Cade. I was almost certain they wouldn't rule in favor of Ant, because I don't really know what his extraordinary circumstances were. I still think Ant should be All-NBA, but he didn't meet the requirement. No extraordinary circumstances. He's not going to be All-NBA, which is stupid, but that's how it is. I hope this offseason, whether Adam Silver's got to do it unilaterally or, better yet, consult with people in league offices. Obviously, you'll talk to the Players Association, come up with a compromise, come up with a better solution than what this is. Because it's bad for the league. When you're having, not that it's a bad thing, guys playing late in the season. That's not what I'm saying. But when you have Wemby, it's like, if Wemby doesn't play this game, he's ineligible. Or if Jokic or Kawhi, if they don't play game 81 or 82, they cannot win a single award. So the last however many games they played, 64 out of 80 are just invalid. They don't matter. They shouldn't be recognized for that. That's stupid. That's not merit-based. And by the way, as I've said on the show before, Chris Broussard was the first to say this, and he is an MVP voter. It takes power out of the hands of the voters. Trust the voters to decipher who were the best players in the league this season, who were the most valuable players in the NBA. Put that in the voters' hands. That should not be the call of the commissioner or the higher ups in the NBA front office. Again, like if somebody played 40 games, the voters know, like, yeah, he missed half the season. We're not going to put him on any of the All-NBA teams. That's how it works. So there needs to be changes. I'm glad they ruled in favor of Cade and Luka. There needs to be changes. Speaking of Cade and Luka, No surprise here. They will be, featured on the list of my top 10 players in the NBA. Before I get to that, though, briefly, I did want to talk about the Charlotte Hornets because they've been one of the more entertaining teams to watch in the NBA this season. They beat the Miami Heat. I did pick them to beat Miami. I also picked Miami plus 5.5, up 5.5 against an Eric Spoelstra coach team. And as careless, we'll get into this, as careless as the Hornets are, 5.5 was way too many points. And Heat almost won the game. I took them plus 5.5. They did cover. The Hornets won 127-126 in OT in the first playing game, which was the three of the first four playing games have been fantastic, thus far. But I do want to talk briefly about LaMelo Ball, who I don't even think among Gen Z. I'm kind of like in the middle. What does Gen Z span from, like 97 to 2010, I guess? So I'm like young-ish, or not young-ish, old-ish Gen Z. I was born in 03. So for like young Gen Z and old Gen Alpha, this guy, LaMelo Ball, is like their favorite player in the league. He's fun. He's exciting. Obviously, we know about the Ball family, LeVar, Lonzo, all those guys. And he plays a game that looks like he's playing pickup. He just does. It's loose. It's throwing lob passes through the legs off the backboard to guys. That's how he plays the game. He also can be quite reckless. And by the way, play basketball in a way that is not always beneficial to the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, in that game Tuesday night against the Miami Heat, this man went 2 of 16 from 3. If the play-in counted for the playoffs, which I think it should, we're talking about stats. If the stats counted for the playoffs, which I think it should, that would be the most missed threes in a playoff game ever, 14. Like he was, and the Hornets, by the way, as a squad, weren't much better. If you look at what Charlotte did from the three-point line, they shot 18 of 56, which is 32%. They shoot a bunch of threes. They led the league in threes attempted by a mile. Cunningham was number 1 in threes made. LaMelo was number 2 in threes made. They shoot a lot of threes. That's their identity. They play into it. Fine. LaMelo in this game. You saw the good LaMelo and the bad LaMelo against Miami. You can show the numbers right here. He dropped 30 points, 5 rebounds, 10 assists. But he got 30 points on 31 shots. He's 12 of 31 from the field. 2 of 16 from three-point range, as I just mentioned. But after almost blowing the game defensively and with a late turnover in overtime, he ends up hitting a layup that I texted. Shout out to Paris, who's on our NBA show on the grid. Great dude, big Pacers fan. And this probably was mean of me to do, but I texted him right after. I was like, that game-winning layup against Miami, where he catches it at the top of the key and just drives right off his pivot foot for the layup, reminded me a lot of LeBron's game-winning buzzer beater in the 2013 conference finals against the Pacers. Like, it was very kind of similar. And so kudos to LaMelo for that. And he's catching a lot of flack. Listen, rightfully so, for the objectively dirty play early in the game where he's falling out of bounds, Bam Adebayo's falling out of bounds, and Lonzo grabs Bam's ankle and, twists it, and Bam misses the rest of the game. And Spo was pissed after the game. He was mad about it. The NBA actually fined LaMelo for it. They also fined him additionally, I think it was $35,000 for the play on Bam, which got upgraded to a flagrant 2, by the way, which would have gotten him thrown out of the game, and $25,000 for cursing in the post-game interview with Cassie Hubbard. He said, I effed up the game or something before the game-winning layup. And so, listen, I know you've had folks out there, and shout out to Nick Wright. I love Nick Wright, even though he left out Steph Curry of the top 10 guards of all time. I'll forgive him this just one time. But no, Nick caught some flack for saying, LaMelo's a clown and always will be a clown, which he retracted thanks to the great Chris Broussard. And he caught, understandably, flack from Lonzo. LeVar was going after him. And listen, I reserve for people who I truly do not think are serious about the game of basketball, which you can maybe put LaMelo in that category, but he doesn't do things on the court. They're silly, but they're basketball plays. I reserve clown, frankly, for a guy the Warriors are going to play tomorrow, Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks commits acts that have literally nothing to do with basketball, that have nothing to do with playing defense, all of it. Patrick Beverley, I'd put in that category, clown. I do think, though, because I think Charlotte's going to beat Orlando tomorrow. I've been out in Orlando. I was in on them before the season. I think there's a darn near mutiny in that locker room between the coach and Paolo. It's been just a disastrous season for the Magic. So I think Charlotte's going to beat them tomorrow night and get in the playoffs as the 8th seed and play Detroit. Spoiler alert, I'll get to my playoff predictions later. I'm picking Detroit in a pretty quick series. And so those growing pains are going to help this team moving forward. I trust it'll make Cunningham better. I trust it'll make Brandon Miller better. They've got guys. Kobe White has been a great get for them in Bridges. And I think they have a really, really good coach in Charles Lee, who had the cojones to pull Cunningham late in the game. Now, he was playing horribly, but that's one of the guys who got you there. And he had the balls to pull him out of the game and say, hey, we're going to go with Grant Williams late. I love Grant, but Knepel's obviously the better player. I do have some concerns about whether LaMelo will mature in terms of how he plays, in terms of the fact that going in, regardless of what happens in this playing game, whether they lose or whether they win and get in the playoffs and lose to Detroit, there will be some not like crazy, but there will be expectations. Okay, Charlotte, what's the next step you're going to take going into next year? Knepel's going to be better. We assume Brandon Miller will be better. We like their coach. We like their young supporting cast. Like, there's potential there. And God knows the East is not known for being a powerhouse conference. But it's the maturity of their point guard that's going to have to help get them to the next level. And just I get on Luka for his outright refusal to play defense. LaMelo goes in that same category. Like, he just doesn't play defense. I mean, that was the same way he was in high school. You obviously can't do this in the NBA. But high school, he would just cherry pick the whole game. He'd shoot a three or shoot a layup. 4 guys for Chino Hills to go back and play defense, grab the rebound, throw it to LaMelo, and he's going to make another layup. That's when he had that, 90-point game or something in high school. He just does not believe in playing defense. He's going to have to change that. He just is. He's going to have to play smarter with the basketball as the primary decision maker. He's going to have to understand, hey, if I'm 2 for 12 from 3, I'm not Steph Curry. I should probably give the ball to Knepel or to Brandon Miller and let them cook. Put them in position to be successful as the point guard. And so, listen, he's fun to watch. But for this Hornets team to take the next step with the young talent they have, with the really smart coach I think they have, he's going to have to mature as well. And listen, I love Nick Wright. I think he went a little too far with the clown remark. Again, LaMelo's family took exception to that. You understand why. But there is going to have to be something. He's in year 6. Like, he's same draft as Ant Edwards and Tyrese Halliburton. Look what those guys have accomplished. Ant Edwards has been to back-to-back conference finals. Tyrese Halliburton, if not for a blown Achilles, could have been, could have been an NBA champion, if not for, his torn Achilles. So we'll see. Okay, let's move to my top 10 players in the NBA. So I do this each and every season going into the playoffs. I rate my top 10 players in the league, entering the playoffs. And it doesn't, by the way, they don't necessarily have to be guys that are in the playoffs. These are just my top 10 players across the league. The list inevitably will look different once we get to, mid-June, once the NBA champion is crowned. So let's get right into it. Let's go and get the background music going for my top 10 players in the NBA. Here we go. All right, we'll start at number 10. The 10th best player in the National Basketball Association is Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is the 10th best player in the NBA, and here's why. So this is a guy who kind of had a quiet season, I guess, relative to the Knicks' expectations. So did some of his teammates, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges. But this guy still averaged 26 points a game. 46% shooting for a smaller player is actually not bad. And again, I think this is a Knicks team. I picked them to go to the finals before the season started. I'm not moving off that pick now. But this is a guy who is clutch player of the year a year ago, has gotten the Knicks to their first conference finals since 1999, which he did a year ago, and they eventually obviously lost to the Indiana Pacers. But this is somebody who can get to a spot on the floor, mid-range, good three-point shot, can get to the basket. It's just one of the, again, we talk about smart point guards, is just a smart decision maker with the basketball in his hands. I think the fact that now Mike Brown, unlike Tibbs, is not going to run him and the other Knicks into the ground. He's going to have a lot more gas in the tank for a long playoff run. Listen, Celtics fans can have all the confidence they want about beating the Knicks and getting revenge. A more rested Jalen Brunson, bad news for the Boston Celtics potentially in round 2, but we got a ways before we get there. Speaking of the Celtics, a Celtic is at number 9 in this list. It is Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, 9th best player in the NBA, and here's why. So he would be, with respect to Cade Cunningham, it's a tight race. I would give Jalen Brunson the number 5 spot on my MVP ballot, behind Shea, Jokic, Wemby, and Luka. But what this guy did this season was absolutely incredible. I mean, I think the Celtics over-under for wins this season was like 41.5 because it's, Tatum's going to be gone for the year. You moved on from Porzingis and Al Horford and like this, and Drew Holiday. It's not going to be the same team. And this man, up until Tatum's return a month ago, carries them to the 2 seed in the East and 56 wins, averaging 28 a game. You've seen a big-time growth from him in terms of ball handling responsibilities, in terms of he's always been a good three-point shooter and can get anywhere he wants offensively on the floor. He's going to have to be key, obviously. He's a finals MVP. He's going to have to be key if the Celtics want to win their second championship in 3 years. Jaylen Brown is the 9th best player in the NBA. At number 8, it is Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham is the 8th best player in the NBA from the Detroit Pistons. Here's why. So again, this is somebody who's credit to Cade for sticking out the dog days, and there were some bad days in Detroit when he first got there. I mean, by year 3 of his time at the Pistons, they are literally going through the worst losing streak in NBA history. I think they lost like 31, 32 games in a row or something. A year later, they make the playoffs. A year after that, they're a 60-win team in the 1 seed in the East. So, like, kudos to him for doing this. I'm very, very happy that the league ruled that he is eligible for All-NBA teams. He could be first-team All-NBA. I think the nod will go to Jaylen Brown. But still, this is somebody who has had to carry a big load for this Detroit Pistons offense. Like, my big knock on Detroit is, outside of Cade, I don't really trust a lot of guys to be able to consistently get their own shot, which you have to have those guys to go on deep playoff runs. He can also set guys up offensively. He's a really, really smart player. I have Cade Cunningham as the 8th best player in the NBA. There's a teensy tiny part of me that feels like I'm underrating the next guy on this list. And I would never do such a thing. This is my guy. At number 7, it's the greatest shooter of all time, greatest warrior ever, and the 6th greatest player in NBA history, Wardell Stephen Curry II. Steph Curry is the 7th best player still in the National Basketball Association. Here's why. Well, I think you saw why last night. Drops 35 in the game. Drops, I think it was 27 in the second half alone, hitting the go-ahead 3, all of it. But Steph, even this season, still averaged 26 a game. We talk about teams that don't have a ton of guys that can get their own shot. Well, with Jimmy Butler out, that's kind of the situation the Warriors are in. Like, you got to set guys up with looks or off an offensive rebound like what Porzingis was able to do last night. Steph Curry is the primary, Draymond's the primary decision maker for this team. Steph Curry is the primary go-to option offensively. You saw the offense. You've seen it for years. Kind of die when he goes to the bench. Kerr has to be very judicious. Like, I don't want to run into the ground, but also our offense can't do anything when he's not out there. When he is out there, they're great. Listen, he's obviously the greatest shooter ever. Again, he doesn't get enough. Candace Parker mentioned on the broadcast last night, and she's 100% right. He does not get enough credit for his finishing ability in the paint. Obviously, greatest free throw shooter ever, mid-range, off the dribble, like we know who Steph Curry is, and he's still indisputably one of the 10 best players in basketball, and one of the just the baddest man in the history of the game. Steph Curry is the 7th best player in the National Basketball Association of the Golden State Warriors. At number 6 is Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ant-Man is the 6th best player in the NBA, and here is why. So, listen, it was a quiet season for Minnesota, but then again, so was last year. They were the 6th seed a year ago and got to the conference finals. We'll see if they're able to pull that out this year. We'll see what they do against the Nuggets in round 1. But it can't be understated how good Ant Edwards was this season. He averaged 28 a game. He, again, had to man a big-time load for the second straight year for a Minnesota team that is, can play defense. They've obviously got Gobert and Julius Randle, but just somebody who can give the ball to Ant-Man. He will get his own shot. He's an excellent three-point shooter, mid-range. He can dunk on you and everybody in the arena's head. Listen, it's going to be an uphill climb for the Timberwolves to get to their 3rd straight conference finals, but Anthony Edwards just year after year just shows the growth and development. He's sensational. He's the 6th best player in the National Basketball Association. At number 5, you're getting the top 5 now from the Los Angeles Lakers. It is Luka Doncic. Luka is the 5th best player in the National Basketball Association, and here is why. So you talk about Luka. Listen, do I knock him for the defense? Yeah, it's optional for him. If he feels like playing it, he'll play it. If he doesn't, which is most of the time, he doesn't play defense. He is, without question, one of the greatest offensive forces that we've seen in some time. This is somebody who's got the whole package. He will, for somebody he's in better shape this year than he has been. But Luka does not get enough credit for his just natural strength. He's a great finisher in the paint. The fadeaway mid-range, he can break it down off the dribble. We remember what he did 2 years ago to Rudy Gobert in that Western Conference Finals game when he hit the game winner. The step-back three. I mean, he's leveling and scoring again this season. He's an unbelievable offensive force, triple-double threat each and every night. Did it on relatively efficient shooting, about 47% from the field. Luka Doncic, sensational. I don't think there's any question he's one of the 5 best players in the league. That's where I've got him at number 5. At number 4, he has slowly kind of fallen on this list over the last couple of years, but I still can't deny his greatness. He's still, when healthy, fantastic. Number 4 from the Milwaukee Bucks, it is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis, 4th best player in the NBA. Here's why. So, again, there's the drama in Milwaukee. There's the, and I've gone on Giannis for this whole season. Like, brother, just make it. Do you want to stay in Milwaukee or do you want to go somewhere else? I won't judge you for either decision, but man, just make your call. We've been waiting for years. I think the Bucks have been waiting for years for him to decide what he wants to do with the future of his career, but it cannot be denied. This is somebody who is consistently, any given night, he's going to give you about 30 and 10, on about 60% shooting. That's who he is. That's what he's been for the last few years in Milwaukee, a 60% shooter. I've said for years on the show, he is, since Shaquille O'Neal, he's now more dominant than Shaq now, but since Shaquille O'Neal, he's the most dominant player within 5 feet of the basket that we have in this league. He's absolutely sensational. I cannot wait to see him, hopefully, play on contender. Would love to have him in Golden State. We'll see what happens. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the 4th best player in the NBA. At number 3, it is Victor Wembanyama from the San Antonio Spurs. Wemby is the 3rd best player in the NBA, and here's why. I mean, it's just terrifying what this guy is capable of doing. He's in year 3. He's 22 years old. And he averaged, was 24 and 10 with 3 blocks on efficient shooting. He got in a scoring tear late in the season. That's 40-point games. Like, holy crap, what's this guy going to do when he reaches his prime? I said, once Jimmy Butler went down and my Warriors season went up in flames, I said, I think the Spurs are going to win the title. I love their supporting cast, but it's all going to come down to Wemby. It's going to come down to the fact that he is the indisputable best defensive player in the league. He's going to be rewarded with that, with DPOY. A guy this size should not be able to do what he does, and yet he pulls it off. He can break it down off the dribble. He can dunk it on your head. He can post up the whole thing. He's gained, we knew he would do this. All great players do. He gained weight. He gained muscle. Probably needs to put on a little bit of extra, a little bit extra LBs to be able to put himself in position to be more dominant down low. The perimeter shooting, he's got the whole package, and he will swat 7 shots into the 5th row if you challenge him that number of times. And again, not just block shots, but just the Anthony Davis at one point had this where you're kind of just scared to shoot around him in the paint because it's no bueno. He's going to swat it into the 3rd row. So Victor Wembanyama, I think he's going to lead the Spurs on a deep playoff run. He is the 3rd best player in the NBA. At number 2 is the guy who's going to be back-to-back MVP in probably about a month. It is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. SGA, 2nd best player in the league. Here's why. So Shai, his accomplishments speak for themselves, right? He's averaged 31 a game on 55% shooting, which is freaking ridiculous for a non-center, for a non-post player. It's a perimeter player, but can get to the rim with ease. The mid-range is darn near automatic, especially on the baseline. That kind of step-back midi is tough. He's gotten better over the years from three-point range. Got a great handle. He's the primary decision-maker for Oklahoma City. By the way, he doesn't get enough credit for this, a very good defender. Not like elite, but he commits the other end of the floor. That's why I think for the talent Luka has, he's sensational. That's what will separate these two when it's all said and done, is Shai's commitment to the other end of the floor relative to Luka and relative to a lot of stars in this league. Listen, Oklahoma City is the favorite to go back-to-back. They should be. He's defending the MVP, finals MVP. He's going to get a 2nd league MVP in short order. I think the Spurs are going to beat him. We'll see what happens. But SGA, no question, one of the 2 best players in basketball. And I'm looking at the comments. I see my man John Rivera. Shout out to my man John Fan Perspective. Jokic is still the best player in the league. I agree. Put him up there. Nikola Jokic is still the best player in basketball. Jokic from the Denver Nuggets, best player in the league. Here's why. This man became the first player in the history of the NBA to lead the league in rebounds and assists. And oh, by the way, he gave you darn near 30 a game on insanely efficient shooting. This guy's one of the greatest offensive forces that we've seen. The whole package, getting other guys involved, getting whatever shot he wants. He's got this, and it's maddening if you're rooting for the team that's playing Jokic, where it's the closest thing I can think of is the Larry Bird jump shot, but it's not even like that. Where he hit one over Wemby a couple of weeks ago that was insane. Where it's just he falls away and just like almost like looks like he's like tossing it over his head as opposed to shooting the basketball. He's unguardable. There's no two ways about it. I think Denver going into the playoffs on a 12-game winning streak are really, really dangerous in the West. I cannot wait. Hopefully we get it. A Denver Nuggets, San Antonio Spurs second-round series, Jokic versus Wemby for 7 games. Sign me up for it. Nikola Jokic still, there's some great players in this league, but he remains the crown, or maintains the crown, I should say, as the best player in the world. So go and put up the list. One more time to go back over it. So from 1 to 10, Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, Anthony Edwards, my man Steph Curry, Cade Cunningham, Jaylen Brown, and Jalen Brunson. Those are the 10 best players in the association, and that will change. The list, most of those guys, if not all of them, will be on it once the finals are over. But once it's over, we'll do a re-ranking of the list because inevitably it will look somewhat different. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, and I see I got more comments from John. Shout out to my guy. He says Luka's the second best player in the league. You can make that case. Again, the only reason I can't, I kind of detailed it, I cannot put him over SGA because, hey, SGA's got a championship and he's about to win his second league MVP. Luka has neither. But also Shai is a slightly lesser version of Luka offensively and 50 times better on defense. And again, the accomplishments, OKC's in position to win multiple titles. Like, I think I would be really shocked if in 10 years we talk about the greatest players ever, the greatest guards ever, and Luka is the consensus, higher draft pick, so to speak, over Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Like, again, maybe some people think I'm lower on Luka than I should be. Again, I was going to say, let's say what he does in the playoffs, but he may not be available for the playoffs, unfortunately, which sucks because he's been great in the postseason. If he was able to be healthy and carry the Lakers to like the conference finals and say, okay, you got me, like, because that ain't a team that's good enough to be one of the 4 best teams. If he carries them there, then I feel very differently about Luka in terms of his rankings. And depending on what happens with Jokic, SGA, Giannis, again, we mentioned not all these 10 players are in the playoffs. Steph may not make it. Giannis for sure isn't in. So we'll see what happens. So we'll see. Let's see. Got a comment. Jokic and SGA never scoring 70. That's fair. Luka did have a 70-point game. I understand that. Jokic could if he wanted to. I really believe. Listen, Bam Adebayo can score 83. It was a weird way he got 83, but he got 83. SGA, I think, because of it's a little Kevin Durant-ish. Like, if you look at Kevin Durant's career high, I could be wrong, but I think it's like 56. I don't know if KD's ever had a 60-point game, and KD's one of the greatest scorers ever. But because he's so efficient, he's like, I'm going to pick my spots where I know it can get good looks. That's kind of how Shai plays, and Jokic is, hey, whatever's the best shot. He's LeBron if LeBron were center. If it's the best shots for me or for someone else, that's what I'm going to do. Jokic could absolutely score 70. No question. Now, will they? We'll see. Luka's much more of a gunslinger than those guys, but I hear what you're saying. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, NBA playoff predictions for the first round. That's coming up in just 1 minute on Carvamp Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carvamp Live. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Thursday. So again, as I've said throughout the show, we're basically merging Wednesdays and Friday shows into one on Thursday. So no show tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday talking a ton of NBA playoff hoops, a ton of game one, maybe some draft preview. Next week's the NFL draft. All right, it's coming fast. We're less, or I guess exactly a week away from it. We'll be doing plenty of coverage as we do every year on the Grit Network. I'm super duper excited about it. And Mock Draft 5.0, last mock draft of 2026. That'll be coming out on Wednesday's episode of Carving Up Live, and they'll probably release the full YouTube video either that night or the next morning. So stay tuned for that for sure. But before we get to that, and before we get into the weekend, the thing that we're all going to be watching this weekend is the NBA playoffs, which after a very strange regular season for a number of reasons, mostly related to the absurd levels of tanking we saw at the end. If the first 4 playing games, even the one that was we consider like the worst playing game between Philly and Orlando, still entertaining. Still, it kind of went down to the wire. It's just the other 3 were amazing, right? It's Charlotte winning in overtime in dramatic fashion, and Denny Avdija, we didn't mention him. Denny Avdija going crazy, 41 points for the Portland Trailblazers to get them into the playoffs over Phoenix. And then obviously my Golden State Warriors just pulling it out of the fire against the Clippers, and Steph and Draymond doing their thing as they've done for a decade plus. If that's the appetizer that we've got for the postseason, then we are in for a crazy ride. I'm super duper excited. It's one of my favorite times of the sports calendar year. NBA playoffs. Let's get the predictions, baby. Here we go. All right. We will start. And by the way, we're going to go in order of when the game ones will be played. So we're not just going to do all East, all West, all West, in order of when the first games of the series will be played. So we'll start with Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern, between the Toronto Raptors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs are favored to win the series, understandably so. Listen, Raptors fans have bad memories of facing the Cavs in the playoffs, particularly LeBronto, who was famously their ultimate kryptonite, to say the very least, that 2018 series. Holy smokes, he just, had them in fear. That's why they call them the baby dinosaurs, right? But these are new teams, obviously. This Toronto team has had an unbelievable season, well-coached. Scotty Barnes he wasn't on my third team All-NBA. He might very well make the list. It's probably going to be between him and Denny Avdija. We'll see what happens with that. Brandon Ingram was a great pickup at the trade deadline a year ago. He's helped this team a ton, and Toronto shocked a lot of people by being the 5 seed. As for Cleveland, certainly a dip from what we saw from a year ago, where they're the number 1 seed in the East, the second best record in basketball. Of course, they get unceremoniously gentleman swept by the Pacers in round 2. And then they trade Darius Garland for James Harden, who is the single most notorious playoff choker in the history of professional sports. However, I do think the matches, particularly as it relates to their size, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, favor the Cavs. I like Cleveland's depth. I said this in the trade deadline. I liked a lot of Cleveland's trade acquisitions. I just despise the Harden one. That kind of did them in. I think in the long run, it won't do them in against a team that they're better than, a team they're more experienced than. Give me the Cavs in the series. I'll say 6. I think the Toronto Raptors will kind of surprise some people, in this postseason. So it goes a little bit longer than people expect. But give me the Cavs to win the series in 6 games and advance to the second round. Next game will be played. Next game 1 will be played. We now shift to the Western Conference. Is it fair to call this a rivalry? Again, my definition of a rivalry is there's got to be a push and pull. It's got to be a back and forth. It's why Warriors-Rockets was never a rivalry. The Warriors beat them all 4 times they faced them in the postseason in the Steph, James Harden back and forth. This, you can make the case as a rivalry. Minnesota Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets. Denver beat them in 2023. Denver beat Minnesota 2023 en route to the title. And then the next year, Minnesota beat Denver in a Game 7, in the Rocky Mountains to advance to the Western Conference Finals. So there is a push and pull there. So this is kind of the rubber match, to say the very least. And so, listen, Denver's the overwhelming favorite to win the series, understandably. So they go into the postseason on a 12-game winning streak, the hottest team in the league. But there is a little bit of reservation for me in that, this is a Minnesota team that has had success against Denver in the postseason, albeit Denver did beat them, I think, 3 out of 4 times in the regular season, so maybe the Nuggets have overcome that. And also, it was just a year ago when the Timberwolves were the 6th seed playing a Lakers team that I think most of us, speaking for myself, thought would kind of dust them. Had a down year from the previous Western Conference final season. It turns out it was the Timberwolves who dusted the Lakers. This Nuggets team is obviously better than last year's Lakers team because, in large part, they have Nikola Jokic. They have a fully healthy Jamal Murray. Aaron Gordon's been out of the lineup, but Cam Johnson has been incredibly valuable as team. Strother, all these guys. The bench has been great for the squad. Christian Brown and Adelman's done a good job. I think Chris Finch is a really smart coach. I've been really, really impressed with the job he's done with a roster that, and Edwards is sensational, but a roster that does have some offensive limitations. I think he's gotten the most out of this group. I think just based on familiarity, 2 excellent coaches, but Finch is the more experienced one. I think the series actually goes 6, but but I'm going with the better team. I'm going with the Denver Nuggets to win this series, to advance to the second round once again. And Denver hasn't been to the Western Conference Finals since they won the championship. They're trying to break that streak. This will be the first step in doing so. Nuggets in 6 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. This one I'm kind of excited for. Going back out east, you got the Atlanta Hawks, who have been arguably the hottest team in the league, at least one of the 2 or 3 hottest teams in the league post-All-Star break, taking on the New York Knicks, who had massive expectations coming into the season. Okay, you made the conference finals last year. That wasn't good enough. You fired your coach, Tom Thibodeau, which I think the reason they fired Tibbs had a lot more to do with his just insane, makes no sense management of his rotations, and playing 6 guys and saying, hey, we're running to the ground. We're playing at 45 minutes, which is a terrible way to do it. Regardless, Mike Brown's supposed to be the guy to get this team over the top. If you're a Knicks fan, with respect to Toronto, you would have really liked to play Toronto in round 1. You would have really liked a couple of games late in the season win a different way, and you played Orlando in round 1. Instead, you get a Hawks team that's been playing well down the stretch. You get a Hawks team with Jalen Johnson, with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who's a legit candidate for most improved player, good coaching staff. Like, they don't need it. This reminds me a lot of that series last year against Detroit. We're like, oh, Detroit, cool story. We like Cade. The Knicks are the much better team. And the Knicks were in a dogfight in that series. It took Jalen Brunson hitting that game winner in Detroit. Otherwise, that would have went 7, and who knows what would have happened. This Hawks team reminds me of that. Listen, of the series that could be a potential upset, this will be one of them. Atlanta's athletic. Atlanta's a good offensive team, solid defensive team. But listen, Madison Square Garden is one of the true home court advantages in the NBA. You can feel, I've never been to MSG. You can feel it through the television or watch your phone, whatever. Like, just the energy that comes out of that arena is off the charts. There is that anticipation. Oh my God. We've won a championship since 73, and we're supposed to be, New York is like one of the preeminent basketball cities in America. We got to win a championship at some point. I think experience favors the Knicks. I'm not betting against Jalen Brunson. I picked the Knicks going into the season to represent the Eastern Conference Finals. Not backing off that now. Give me the Knicks in 6. This is the 3rd straight year that we might as well trademark at this point. Knicks in 6. In the first round, they take out the Atlanta Hawks, who, again, have had an excellent season, have a very, very bright future ahead of them. But New York, experience, better overall roster. Jalen Brunson gives them the advantage. New York Knicks head to the second round once again. Back out to the Western Conference. I don't think any of us thought that we would necessarily get this matchup again, but I'm glad we do. 2 of the greatest in the history of the game. 2 guys that, along with Steph Curry, were, for NBA fans like me, or at least of my age, they defined our era growing up watching the game. We're talking about Kevin Durant of the Houston Rockets, LeBron James of the Los Angeles Lakers. Obviously, Houston is favored to win this series because the Lakers are without Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic. And there's an irony to it because I said, as somebody who has not believed in the Lakers for 1 second all season long, I did admit about a month ago, yeah, if they play Houston, I'll pick the Lakers. Because Houston has a tendency, they're not a very good clutch team. They've blown a lot of fourth quarter leads this season. I love the KD trade, and then the second I saw Fred VanVleet get hurt in the offseason, I'm like, okay, I'm out on Houston as a contender. Unless they get another point guard, because Fred VanVleet, championship experience, smart with the basketball, played pretty well against my Warriors last year in the postseason. They need Fred VanVleet gone for the year. And then they lose Steven Adams, kind of that interior presence, offensive rebounding, master that he is. He's gone for the season. So all of those factors play in. With that being said, I'm seeing some folks say, oh, this is going to be a sweep. Listen, this is a Lakers team that has a tendency to get dusted and dusted quick in the playoffs. Last year, gentlemen swept by the T-Wolves. The year before that, gentlemen swept by the Nuggets. They did get to the Western Conference Finals in 2023, but they got swept by Denver in that series. 2022, didn't make the playoffs. 2021, dusted by Phoenix in the first round. It's kind of what they've done recently. But 2 factors. Because of Houston's silliness, this is the only way I know how to put it, late in games, they still don't seem, again, I think a lot of it is just lack of point guard. They don't seem to have a set identity. They don't seem to really know who they are at this stage in the season. And the fact, I know he's 41. I know he's in year 23. But LeBron James is more than familiar even if he isn't prime LeBron, and we know that, he does have a familiarity of having to bear the brunt of the load offensively, being on the ball. He doesn't really do that. He acquiesced into being the third option offensively behind Luka and Austin Reeves, but it's not necessarily what suits him best. Well, this is. There's no choice. Everyone knows who's going to be the initiator of the Lakers' offense. It's going to be LeBron James. I think Houston's length and athleticism will overwhelm the Lakers. If Luka comes back hamstrings, folks, hamstrings, you don't. If it was an ankle, I'd feel differently. Hamstrings are really tricky. I know Luka went to Europe to get some treatment on it. Maybe he comes back. I just don't think he'll be. We know he's already bad on defense. I just don't think he'll be able to just plug back in the Lakers lineup and be prime Luka Doncic. I think the series goes deeper than people expect, but I will go with the Houston Rockets to win in 6. Houston takes out the Lakers. Again, whoever wins the series is getting smoked in the next round because of who they would inevitably play, but the Rockets win in 6 over the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James will get it that far. Going back out east to a playoff rivalry that spans decades, the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics. Boston obviously a massive favorite in the series. This would be kind of a fun watch. Not that it's going to be anyway, but if Joel Embiid were healthy, it's like, okay, Embiid, Maxey, Paul George, like this is, they could push Boston a little bit. With Embiid, God bless him, having the appendectomy. Now it's a situation where, okay, Maxey's sensational, Paul George inconsistent, Kelly Oubre, VJ Edgecombe stepped up and has stepped up this season. He'll absolutely be first-team all-rookie. Kudos to Daryl Morey in that draft pick, but he is a rookie. Boston, on the other hand, this is a championship or bust type of season that I don't think even Celtics players necessarily thought it would be. With Tatum coming back, he's not all the way back to being Jason Tatum, first-team All-NBA guy, but he's been kind of a double-double machine since coming back from injury. Jaylen Brown's a legit MVP candidate this season. Joe Mazzulla's done an unbelievable job. They got great shooters, Baylor Shireman and Peyton Pritchard and all those guys. Good size. Vucevic, it was a great get at the trade deadline that I liked for the Boston Celtics. Good move by Brad Stevens. It's a complete mismatch. If Embiid were playing, for all my knocks on him in the playoffs, the Sixers are obviously better with him. The Celtics win this series quickly. I'll say in 5. I'll give Philly 1. I can see Maxey going for like 40, in a game 3 or game 4 in Philadelphia. But the Celtics do win this series in 5 games and get back to the second round, and we'll get a Knicks-Celtics rematch, which I think everybody and their mama wants to see. Next matchup, it will be either the my beloved Golden State Warriors, or the Phoenix Suns taking on the defending NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder. So either way, Oklahoma City will be a massive favorite. Let's get the first part of the way. If Phoenix beats Golden State tomorrow, I think the Thunder sweep them. I just think it's a mismatch. I think this Suns team has overachieved. They're well coached. Devin Booker hasn't been that good in the playoffs the last few appearances for him in those spots, kind of quietly. And I think Shea will absolutely torch Dillon Brooks, who will try his darndest to get in Shea's head. Shea's not that type of player. He'll annihilate him. I think it'll be a very quick series. If the Warriors get in, if the Warriors beat Phoenix, which I think they will, I think the Warriors will win a close game in Phoenix tomorrow night, get in the playoffs as the AC. Kind of improbably, but that's where they find themselves in. I don't think I've ever, matter of fact, I'm certain, I've never picked against my Warriors in a playoffs, ever. I think I've picked against my Red Sox before in the playoffs. I know I've picked against my Steelers before in the playoffs. I did 2 seasons ago when they played Baltimore. I've never picked against the Warriors. Here's what I'll say, because the Thunder are that goes without saying, they're obviously the better team. What I'll say is this, 2 things. Number 1, prior to the Jimmy Butler trade a year ago, this is why I say it just kills me that Steph injured his hamstring in round 2, because I honest to God believe that team. And the Warriors, the players themselves have said, we think we could have won the title. They would have beaten Minnesota, no question. Against Oklahoma City in the regular season, they took 2 of 3. They beat the Thunder 2 out of 3 times. By the way, their one loss was by 4 points, and Steph didn't play that game. All before Jimmy Butler got there. So with Steph out there, they have had success against these Thunder. What I'll also say is this. One of my, and this may sound like a dumb stat, but I kind of like it, because it just shows how much of a dog this guy is. Michael Jordan has been swept. LeBron James has been swept. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Shaquille O'Neal. They have all been swept. Steph Curry has not only never been swept, He's never in a playoff series when Steph's fully healthy. Timberwolves gentlemen swept the Warriors last year. Steph barely played. So if Steph's there and you beat him, it takes you 6 or 7 games to do so. He's pushing you deep into a series. I think Oklahoma City I think they'll crush Golden State in game 1. I think the Warriors will be kind of exhausted after 2 playing games. I think the Thunder will annihilate the Warriors on Sunday in game 1. From there, it's Steph Curry. It's the playoffs. I've got Steve Kerr. Respect to Dagnall, Steve Kerr's obviously the better coach. The size for the Warriors, playoff experience, I think it's a semi-tough series. I'm going with Oklahoma City. I'm not going to go all the way and say upset. Is this We Believe 2.0? I'd love nothing more than for that to be the case. Alas, I do not see that taking place. Thunder in 6. Warriors will push them, though. It's Steph. If they play the Suns, it's a sweep. The Suns aren't getting a game out of Oklahoma City. If the Warriors do, Steph Curry in the playoffs. Never been swept, never been gentlemen swept. It's one of my favorite non-talked about streaks in pro sports. I think it continues. I would be over the bleeping moon if they pulled it off. I don't think that's possible. Oklahoma City's a far better team offensively, defensively. They got too many bodies that can at times bother Steph. Steph will still get his. It will be a struggle. I think the Warriors can give them problems. Go in round 1. All right, next series. Detroit Pistons, the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They'll either be playing the Orlando Magic or they'll be playing the Charlotte Hornets. If they take on the Magic or the Hornets, I think it's the same result. Pistons win in 5 over, over Orlando and Charlotte. Again, I think Detroit's got to come in the playoffs feeling really disrespected. Like, hang on a second. Cade missed time due to injury late in the season. Jalen Duren kind of carried us. We had some guys step up, some young guys step up for us. Asar Thompson. Got a good coach, J.D. Bickerstaff. We won 60 games in an East that had a great Celtics team. And people just think we're DOA, like we have no chance at all. Oh, okay, we'll show you what we're about to do against either a broken Orlando locker room or a Hornets team that's fun as you know what to watch, but they've got some growing up and maturing to do. I think Charlotte's going to beat Orlando. Either way, Pistons in 5. And in the final series, Portland Trailblazers, San Antonio Spurs. Spurs are obviously heavy favorites to win this series. Listen, Portland has shocked a lot of people, and I think Portland has a really, really bright future. Not just because of Denny Avdia, who would be on my 3rd-team All-NBA. If he's not, I understand. There's other legit candidates. He was unbelievable against the Phoenix Suns. 41 points, was unstoppable in the 4th quarter, drives to the basket, all of it. But if you look at this Trailblazers team, Scoot Henderson, not quite what I thought he would be, but is slowly growing, developing. I love Shaedon Sharpe, loved him since he came out of college a few years ago. Got Toumani Camara, who's a nice player. Klingon from UConn, good player. And they've also got veteran presence. Drew Holiday, who hit some big shots the other night against Phoenix. And next year, they'll have Damian Lillard. So I think there's and by the way, major kudos to Tiago Splitter. I was forgetting his name for a second. To Tiago Splitter for the job he did. People forget because of how well the Trailblazers have played relative to expectations. Their coach got arrested after the first game, Chauncey Billups. Tiago Splitter takes over as the interim and does an unbelievable job. That said, they are no match for San Antonio. Size, defense, depth. I think Mitch Johnson's a really, really smart coach. You've got De'Aaron Fox, who has playoff experience, limited, but he's got it. So does Harrison Barnes. I think they'll be able to help the guys. Wemby, I think, is going to come in just absolutely on fire. Excited for the postseason. We saw how great he was in the Olympics a couple of years ago. Similar type of intensity and experience. Stephon Castle, step up, Vassell, all of those guys. I've got the San Antonio Spurs winning in a quick one. Portland will get one at home. I could see Spurs up 3-0. They've never been in a closeout game, and the Blazers just out of pure desperation win a game 4, but then the Spurs come back to San Antonio and close out in a gentleman's sweep. Spurs in 5 over the Portland Trailblazers. That's what I have for the first round of the NBA playoffs. So quick recap. Let's do East and then West. Out East, I got the Cavs in 6. I think Toronto pushes them a little bit. Never forget, this is James Harden in the playoffs we're talking about. Cavs in 6 over the Raptors. Knicks in 6, which we've kind of trademarked on this show 3 straight years, over the Hawks. I think that's a really compelling series, and I'm excited to watch. Celtics quickly over the Sixers. Again, if Embiid were healthy, maybe it's Celtics in 6, but Maxey has one big game in him. That's about it. Celtics in 5 over the Philadelphia 76ers. And then whether it's against the Magic or against the Hornets, Pistons in 5 over those two. Out West, I think the Timberwolves push Denver deeper than people think. Nuggets in 6. There's familiarity between these two teams. And Ant is a giant killer. He's beaten Jokic once in the playoffs, right? He's beaten, LeBron and Luka and Kevin Durant. Like he's beaten some great players in the postseason. So this isn't foreign territory for him. But I do think Denver wins in 6 over Minnesota. I think just on LeBron's greatness and Houston's late game silliness, the Rockets win the series. It goes deeper than it should. I don't think Luka comes back. If he does, it's a hamstring injury. I think he'll be a shell of himself. Rockets in 6 over the Lakers. If the Thunder play the Suns, it's a sweep. If they're playing the Warriors, again, Steph has never even been gentleman swept in a series, and just having Steph Curry in the postseason will give OKC some problems. But alas, depth, defense, that size, that'll hurt the Warriors. Warriors are bigger than they've been, but still, Oklahoma City's got the advantage in that department. And then the Spurs in a gentleman sweep in 5 over the Portland Trailblazers. Again, if the play-in games are any look into what we should expect going forward, I'm sure we're in for playoffs. I'm looking at my phone because I just saw it, folks, and this is a great way to end the show. It was going to happen. Dylan Brooks says he wanted to face the Warriors in the play-in. Okay. You have a great history guarding Steph Curry, right? Which, by the way, no one has a good history guarding Steph Curry. Like remember that thing where Dellavedova's the Curry stopper, Amin Thompson. It's like you can't stop the all-time great players. You can't. You can make hard on them, but you can't stop them. I think Steph's got something for Dylan. I think we're in store for a night-night. At least I hope so. I hope the Warriors get in. If they don't, they don't. Again, it's been the season for hell, but I'd like to see them get in. If nothing else, like I've said, just for some of the younger players of the team to get some playoff minutes, because going into next season, Jimmy Butler comes back. Steph reportedly, and this has been sourced, expects the Warriors to land a big fish in the offseason. Giannis, LeBron, somebody like that. So getting those young guys playoff minutes, especially against a championship team like Oklahoma City, I think would be good for the Warriors going into next season. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. I appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving Up Live on Monday. Boy, we'll have a ton to talk about. At 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, X, and on Instagram. Hope everybody has a great rest of their week, great weekend. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Oh, and I almost forgot. Steelers, don't sign Aaron Rodgers, please. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.